Hey guys, welcome back to Pops and Props. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make two different versions of Jason's mask from Friday the 13th Part 2. This one, and this one. So, let's go get started. So before we get into the build, I'm just going to go over the things I used. So this is canvas drop cloth. I got this over at Home Depot, and there's a lot of it. I didn't end up using that much of it. Next up is burlap fabric. I can't remember where I got this, but I'm pretty sure you can order it on Amazon. Next up are some tea bags. I got No Name brand. We'll be using this to stain the canvas drop cloth. Some acrylic paint. This is a mix of black and a few different shades of brown. After that, we'll need some paintbrushes for the weathering stage. I actually ended up using a very thick paintbrush, and I just did some dry brushing. And last but not least, you'll need some pencils and an eraser, just for good measure. I also picked up some rope. I got some thick rope, and I got some shoelaces, and this will be for both masks. You'll also want a good sewing kit. Now in here, there are some really good scissors that I ended up using, and you'll also need some pins. We'll be using these pins to pin the fabric together. So the very first thing I did was I unfolded the canvas drop cloth, and I just cut a piece big enough for my first mask that I'll be making. This first mask will be the accurate mask, and then we'll move on to the burlap mask. Here, I'm just double checking to make sure that this fabric is big enough for the mask. I just use a measuring tape and quickly measure both sides. Now, before we draw out the shape of the mask, I'm just going to go in and mark out the center, because it'll just be a little bit easier for us. Now we are marking the measurements for the mask. The bottom is about 20 inches, and coming to the top, I marked out 12 inches for the top of the mask. And about 3/4 of the way up of the mask is about 14. I wanted this mask to be a little oversized because that's how it looks on Jason. Now all it is connect the dots. Fairly simple, and really take your time with this. I kind of went a little bit fast, but for you guys, if you want to do this yourself, take your time, make it as good as you want it to look. And then after that, I just put in the pins, and when you're doing this, just make sure the pins go through both pieces of the fabric. I actually cut out two masks exactly the same, one for the burlap and one for the accurate mask. And after you're all done with the pins, then cut out the shape. After that, I went in and laid down the burlap and then cut out the same shape of the mask. I cut out two of these, and these will be for the burlap mask. Now, after you're done with the burlap, fold the mask inside out, and now we'll be getting ready for staining it and the weathering. I've got 2 pots on the stove here boiling, and I also have this little kettle over here. Once these are boiling, pour them into the sink, and then we'll be adding some tea bags. Here are the tea bags. I just added about 3 or 4 bags to the sink. After that, I gave it a stir. I let it sit for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then I took out the tea bags. Careful when you're doing this because they can be really hot, so if you're not comfortable with doing this, then grab a parent or someone else to help. After that, just plop your mask into the sink and let it sit for about 20 minutes. After about 30 minutes, take out the mask, wring it out a little bit, and then we'll be putting it in the dryer. After the mask is all dry, I got my beautiful girlfriend, Brooke, to sew the mask for me. For the burlap mask, you'll want both pieces of the burlap sandwiched in between the canvas drop cloth, so when you fold it inside out, the burlap will be on the outside of the mask. After the sewing's all done, I go in and take out all the pins from both masks. Once the pins are all out, I just fold the masks inside out just to make sure they look all good and you can't see the thread through the seams. For the burlap mask, I thought it was a little too tight on the inside, so I go in with some scissors and just trim off the excess fabric. Now we are marking the eye hole. So I just used a marker I just found in the kitchen, and I just put a little light dot, and then I take it off, make sure it looks all good, and then make the dot a little bit darker so I have a reference when I'm cutting it out. Next is the burlap mask. I actually got my girlfriend to help with this because I couldn't see through the mask at all. After that, I use a nickel and I trace a little circle around the dot that I made. And then I cut it out and I make this look as jagged as I can because I don't want it to look perfect. I repeated that step on the burlap mask. After that, I grab the two different ropes and roughly measure them around my neck. After that, I take a lighter and I just burn the ends so there isn't any fraying. I fill up my sink with water just enough to cover the rope and the shoestring. I added some black acrylic paint and a little bit of brown to weather them a little bit. Now, for the weathering stages of both masks, I wanted to pull out my Jason Voorhees Funko Pop and take a quick look at it. I thought this mask looked really similar to burlap fabric, so that was my inspiration for the burlap mask. Now take a look at this Funko Pop. I really love the detail of all the dirtiness on the mask, so I'm going to try to replicate this on my own burlap mask. You can also see the seam here, it's pretty out there. I take a piece of cardboard and slide it in between my mask. This is just to protect the inside layers while I'm doing the weathering. I go in with some watered down black acrylic paint as well as some watered down brown acrylic paint, and I do some dry brushing. I use some paper towel and do some dabbing, and I just do a mixture of these all over the mask. I want to make this thing look old, like it's been around for a really long time. I go in and do the same with the burlap mask. Now for the burlap mask, I wanted to make it a lot dirtier, like it's been in a barnyard, kind of just laying around for years and years on end. So I kind of went all out with this weathering. If you're doing this, you can decide if you want to or not, but I really liked how it looked. So this is what the mask looks like now. I'm really happy with how it looks, so I'm going to stop the weathering stage and move on to the next stage. After you're happy with the mask, take out the rope from the sink and you can put it in the dryer. I put it on high because I wanted it to be dry as fast as possible. And this is how the screen accurate mask turned out. I'm actually really happy with how this looks. I think it looks awesome. And here's the burlap mask. I think it looks really good, but you can't really see the detail in this lighting. Well guys, I really hope you enjoyed today's video. Here are the masks up close. I know they were probably a little bit harder to see on camera, but that's what it looks like with all the detailing and all the dirt and grime and stuff. So there's the original one, the actual movie accurate one. And then this one is the one I wanted to do based off a Funko Pop I have. And this is what it looks like. And honestly, I'm a big fan of both of them, and I'm really happy with how both of them turned out. And that one there. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to comment down below, and if you have any prop suggestions, just let me know. Don't forget to do those 3 things: like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.